So when most people hear the word ROI, return on investment, they immediately think one thing: money in, money out, profit, loss, balance sheet. Now look, the finance matters, of course. If clubs keep losing money, you don't have a club for very long. But in community sport, ROI is so much bigger than that. It's the time you get back as a volunteer. It's the culture you build. It's the community that you hold together. And it's the impact you have on kids and families in your wider neighborhood. Today, I want to walk through what ROI looks like in community sport and how good governance, simple systems, and a little bit of kindness can completely change the game for your sports club. This isn't a corporate lecture. This is about making your life easier, your club healthier, and the whole experience more enjoyable for everyone. Now, let's start with a word that usually makes people's eyes glaze over: governance. Not sexy, not exciting. Doesn't look great on a social media post, but if you've got children involved and money flowing through your program, if you've got volunteers making decisions, then governance is non-negotiable. Most community clubs are run by amazing people. Mums, dads, long-term members, retirees, people that genuinely love the place. Their intentions are brilliant, but passion isn't equal to having the correct skills to do the job. And a healthy bank balance, a full clubhouse, a great junior program can still only be one bad decision away from real trouble. I've seen very well-funded clubs end up on the absolute brink of bankruptcy because the wrong people were making the wrong calls with no checks and no balances and no objective process behind it. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I caught up here with Kelly Reynolds. She's an utter powerhouse in the sphere of global sport and business, and she shared that she'd even seen this at the national level. Now, I'm not saying that your local cricket club or rugby club needs a corporate board, but you do need some basics in place. Clarity on who makes decisions and which ones and why. The right people in the right roles, especially around money and child safeguarding. Decisions must be based on facts, not feelings, a view that stretches beyond this weekend and into the next 3 to 5 years. Governance isn't about slowing you down. Done well, it's actually the thing that stops you wasting time and burning people out. So, right people, right roles. Let's start there. You can have money in the bank, volunteers keen to help, and some decent systems, but if the wrong people are steering the ship, the whole thing is fragile. Now, most clubs have at least one of these characters. The person who's been there for 20 or 30 years, knows every story, every result, every historical drama. They've probably done every job at some stage. These people are gold. Their loyalty and commitment are incredible. But if your club is essentially being run on their habit, not a shared strategy, you've got a problem. So what you want instead is a mix. You need someone who understands finances. You need someone who understands operations and logistics. You need someone who understands sport and the culture, and you need someone that understands the broader community: parents, kids, schools, partners. And just as important as skills is diversity: age diversity, gender diversity, and diversity of background and thinking. Now, if everyone in your committee room looks the same, thinks the same, and played the sport at a high level 30 years ago, you've probably got a group think, and that is no good for anybody. You need the parent who works in finance, the young player who understands social media, the local business owner who understands sponsorship. You need the former athlete who understands high performance, and the long-term member who guards the club's soul. These things are key. That mix doesn't slow you down, it protects you. If one person's philosophy becomes the entire club destiny, you're in trouble. And as Kelly put it, revenue is vanity, cash is sanity. Now, I loved this moving on to the finances because anyone can stand up at an AGM and shout, "We turned over 300,000 quid this year. We sold this amount of shirts and memberships and event tickets." But if that cash doesn't actually get collected, or it leaks out through sloppy systems, or it disappears into loss-making events, then all those big numbers are just noise. Here's what usually happens in clubs. Volunteers are sending to 10 different WhatsApp groups. Can you pay your subs? Can you send me a screenshot of the transfer? Can you bring cash on Saturday? And then they're combining bank transfers, reconciling statements at 11 o'clock on a Sunday with a massive glass of wine, trying to work out who's paid and who hasn't. Nobody signed up to coach a kids team thinking, I can't wait to become a part-time debt collector. That's where systems come in. Simple digital tools that send invoices and payment links automatically. They renew memberships automatically. They show you who's up to date and who isn't. And they let parents give you their cash in just a couple of clicks. Suddenly the coach is no longer the bad guy. The treasurer doesn't hate Sunday nights anymore. The committee actually know what's going on. Same story with merchandise. So many clubs order mountains of shirts, caps, hoodies. They guess the sizes, the colors. They stuff it all into a cupboard and then wonder why thousands of dollars is tied up in unsold stock at the end of the year. With just a little bit of data, last year we sold 90 hoodies at this price point. We didn't sell any extra small, but we sold loads of mediums and loads of larges. People love the simple logo, not the crazy design that nobody asked for. Well, now you can order smart. You can tweak the price and you can kill off products that don't move. Doubling down on the winners. That's real financial ROI. Less waste, more margin, less stress. Another big discussion point with Kelly was legacy decisions. Every club has at least one event that's been running for decades. We've always run this tournament. We've always hosted this open. It's tradition. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Some of those events are losing serious cash. In golf, per Kelly's example, she shared about the pennants and the open competitions that collectively lose hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. At some point, someone has to be brave enough to say, is this still serving the club and its people? Or are we spending £25,000 a year to run something just because we're scared to be the ones who stop it? Now, that doesn't mean that you kill every tradition. So many things are worth losing a little bit of money on because they're culturally important to the club and its people. But that's got to be a conscious decision, not an accidental one. The mature, well-governed clubs, they look at the numbers. They decide consciously what they're willing to subsidize, and they redirect the rest into junior development, facilities, or building a small endowment fund so they've actually got a buffer if and when something does go wrong. That's what sustainability looks like. Now, if we zoom out for a second, because the real ROI of great club management isn't just about bigger surpluses, tidier spreadsheets, or more efficient inventories. It's about people. For kids, sport builds resilience. It builds confidence. It teaches them how to win, how to lose, how to be a part of a team. Kids involved in sport are statistically less likely to drift into risky behavior. And it gets them off screens and out into the fresh air, which, let's be honest, is pretty key this year. For adults, clubs are a mental health anchor. It's a place where you're not James the accountant or Priya the lawyer. You're just a part of the team. You've got routine, connection. You've got a reason to leave the house on a rainy Sunday morning. And for families, it becomes a social hub. Friends, support networks, kids growing up together. And for some people, that club is literally their tribe. So when we talk about improving governance, cleaning up the finances and modernizing the systems, we're not just doing it so the AGM slides look a little bit more comfortable. We're doing it so that more people can access that kind of community for longer and in a healthier way. Because put simply, the game has changed and clubs need to catch up. There's another big shift happening that Kelly spoke about when we caught up. And it was about how people consume sport today. 10 years ago, you watched sport on TV, you read about it in the paper, maybe you went down to the ground. Now, more so, parents are live streaming games on their phones. Highlights are on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Clubs are creating their own content. People are engaging digitally on demand in short bursts. At the top end, big broadcast deals are under massive amounts of pressure. National bodies are more protective over their revenue than ever before, and the old model where money flowed downstream from the top is weakening. So at the community level, the maths has changed. You can't rely on handouts from upstream anymore. You can't wait for the governing body to save you. Clubs must own their own balance sheets, build their own revenue, make smart use of their assets, pitches, grounds, social spaces, locations. Some clubs are brilliant at this, others are catching up. The best clubs, they rent out their facilities, they partner with big events in their region, they host functions and corporate days and festivals. Others have the same potential but never even explore it because they're stuck in the day-to-day administrative churn. Again, this comes back to governance, systems, and freeing up time so leaders can actually think strategically and not just survive week to week. Change or die. Traditional clubs are way beyond the crossroads. You can really see this tension in sports like golf. Participation is up, more people are playing the game than ever before, but many traditional private golf clubs are really struggling. Why are they struggling? Because they've built a model around rigid hierarchies, outdated dress codes, and this is how we've always done it approach. It's a culture that feels closed and cold to newcomers especially. Younger players want flexible memberships, shorter formats, variety in where and how they play, and a warm, welcoming culture. I loved one story Kelly shared. Her husband turned up to an expensive private golf club wearing white socks with a tiny black fern on them. He was a Kiwi from New Zealand. He was told he couldn't play in those socks. He bought the club socks out of respect, but afterwards he said, "I'm never playing here again." And that was it. They left. The club lost thousands of dollars a year over a pair of socks. That's not standards, that's self-sabotage. It's a great reminder that culture is often defined in tiny moments, not in mission statements. Someone being made to feel unwelcome, a partner being ignored, a kid being shouted at for a mistake. Those micro moments are either pulling people deeper into the club or pushing them straight out the door. I bang on about this, but clubs must use kindness as a strategic advantage. Kindness in sports clubs is making sure you know the first names of all the members of staff behind the bar, in the kitchen, cleaning the pavilion, and thanking them for taking such good care of the club that you really love after you come through. It's introducing yourself to somebody new at the club. It's including your partner or somebody else's partner perhaps in a conversation. It's asking your mate how you're actually doing when you can see they're struggling. Maybe they've had a bad day. Take them for a lap of the ground, talk to them, bring them back to perspective. Recently, I've personally walked away from a club where my family didn't feel welcome. And I know I'm not alone. You're keen, you want to give back, to play, to volunteer. Your wife, your husband, your kids, your partner don't feel included. And when that happens, you start to mentally disengage. So here's a really practical challenge for you as a sports club administrator tuning into this today. As you fix your governance, as you improve your systems, and as you clean up your finances, you create time and you create the space for kindness. Because when people feel welcomed, appreciated, and part of something bigger, they stay longer, they spend more, and they give more of themselves back to the club. This is the real ROI of great club management. Now, the last brilliant punch in the face from Kelly was when we started to speak about talent mapping. I forever hear clubs sharing stories with us along the lines of, we haven't got enough volunteers, or nobody wants to help, or it's always the same 3 people doing everything. Often the issue is bigger. It's not that you don't have the people, it's that you've never asked properly or given them a clear way to step in. I suppose my question to you watching would be, when did you last run a survey? Asking, what do you do for work? What skills do you have? Would you be open to helping out with X, Y, Z? If you have done this, then you'll know what I know, which is within your member and parent group, a marketing director is hiding on the sidelines, a lawyer who can help with club contracts has a kid in the junior program, an accountant is there watching the game, happy to tighten up your books. There's a teacher that can help you strategize and structure junior sport. There's a retired project manager who loves working with systems. And it's not just talent mapping, it's experience. In one example Kelly gave, a survey revealed that players weren't wearing club gear because the fabric was itchy and restrictive. Something nobody would have admitted in a committee meeting, but they changed suppliers, they fixed the problem and made over $1 million in merchandise profits the next cycle. Now, yes, this was a big sports club, but the same principle applies at the grassroots. The solution to some of your biggest headaches is quite possibly standing on the touchline. You just haven't asked the right questions yet. So let's pull this all together. What is the real ROI of great club management? Well, it looks like this. Financially, less leakage, smarter events, better margins, a path towards small endowments and long-term stability. Operationally, it's systems that collect cash cleanly and on autopilot, volunteers, coaches connecting, less time chasing people. And culturally, it's a club where people feel respected and seen. Kids building resilience and confidence within the program, adults finding community support and families feeling like they legitimately belong. When people, systems and kindness line up, everything changes. Leaders stop burning out and you get time back to actually enjoy the sport again. And that for me is the whole point, not to build a perfect spreadsheet, but to build clubs where people love to spend time. So as you think about your own club, maybe ask yourself, where are we strong? Where are we flying blind? And where do we need to be a little bit braver with our numbers, with our traditions, and with our culture? And what's one thing that your club can do this month to improve its ROI, not just in dollars and cents, but in community impact? Thanks for watching. And if this sparked something for you, share it with your committee, your treasurer, your coach, your president. Start the conversation. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another sit down to discuss all things grassroots sport. See you later.